Welcome. It is another Wednesday evening Facebook Live, and I've got some friends that are going to join me tonight, and we're going to go ahead and talk about, actually we have a topic to discuss tonight, and we're going to talk about how to burn fat versus glucose for energy. And we have Dr. Travis Robbins that's going to go ahead and talk about that, and also the value of ketones. So I'm very excited about this talk. I asked Dr. Travis to come on and join us and be able to share his expertise in the field. And we're going to kind of get back to him. But I've got Alan, who's also going to be able to share his story. But tonight, we're going to start with Paul. So Paul is someone that I've known for, I don't know, Paul, would you say a little over a year? I think I met you,
Yeah,
it probably would have been a year ago in October, right?
yeah, a year
And
ago. To
yeah, somebody, I mean, who had been on the system. I had never met him face to face, and he kind of shared his story, and I was really just kind of blown away. I don't know if I just had a naive understanding of what in my head maybe the Amish community dealt with on a day-to-day basis, right? And so when I heard your story, I was just like, this is incredible. I need to hear, I need to have Paul share his story. And I think it wasn't long after that meeting when we first introduced each other that I had you come on one of my Facebook lives. And so, Paul's got an incredible story, and so I'm very, very excited to have him share that with us tonight. And so, Paul, if you would just kind of share where you were before you came across this system, and then what it's done for you. But tonight we're really going to talk about metabolic health and how to burn fuel efficiently the right way. So, Paul, would you just go ahead and kick it off with your testimony?
yeah, so about a month before I met Becky is when I started on the protocol, and I had fatty liver and type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. I was on all medications for all of that, and of course, way overweight and inflammation, a lot of inflammation in my back and in my wrists and stuff like that. So I started the protocol in it was the end of September. In Then by the end of October, I had lost already 25 pounds, and I was my metformin and stuff. I had take it down because my sugar was coming down, and I did all yeah I did all that. I stayed on the protocol. I watched how I ate for the most part, but yeah, then in a 4 month time, I was supposed to go back to my doctor for more blood work to see where I'm at. And we had just done blood work because I was just diagnosed with fatty liver. And I knew about the product for about eight months, probably before I got on it, but was just, skeptical about it and didn't think it would work for me. And so when I got on it, 4 months later, I had my checkup at my doctor, and she couldn't believe how much my numbers changed in 4 month time. And in 4 months, I lost 40 pounds, and my triglycerides went way down. I don't actually remember the number. I need to look that up again, but I know my A1C, I can remember that it was up 8.2, and in 4 months it was down to 5.9. Then when she had me come back in August of just 25 to redo my blood work, it was at 5.4. So she was like, "You're not even considered a diabetic anymore." And so that's kind of my story. I just had a lot of weight loss. Of course, I'm bald, and a lot of my hair's starting to grow back on my head, and I'm still pretty bald, but there's a lot of hair there. I'm excited, and it's
Um,
starting to grow up to the sides here, and then I got strands growing back. So now that tells me my baldness was coming from metabolic syndrome and not something else. And I'm going to keep working on it and just see how much of it actually comes back. But I have a picture of my daughter when I went with her to school about this time a year ago. And then if you can see my hair better, I want to get a good picture of my head and start showing people that, because there's a big difference from a year ago till now. So yeah, I just stayed on the protocol. I tried to stay faithful to it, but I didn't. I know I missed and messed up. I ate sweet stuff, and I always tell people do it 80/20. If you mess it up 20% of the time, you're still doing good.
right.
But yeah, that's kind of my story. I know carpal tunnel in my wrists is pretty much completely gone. Stuff they were going to do surgery on and try and fix, and you can fix it without doing surgery if you just really work on it.
That's
So
incredible.
Yeah, that's
Wonderful.
awesome.
Yeah, that's very awesome. Paul, you can kind of walk through this picture, but I've got a before and after picture of you, and you probably could could update this one a little bit because how long ago? So the first picture, your before picture, was this like right at the beginning when you first started the system?
no, that before picture was, I didn't think it would work. So I was real negative. I admit it, I was real negative. I was like, it's not gonna work. So I didn't take a picture right when I started. This picture was 11 days later, and I had already lost 8 pounds.
Wow.
And that was like 11 days later. And I remember
Wow.
that because after I started losing weight, I told my wife, I was like, I need to take before and after pictures because this is working. And
You were
so,
shocked, I'm sure.
yeah. And then, so the next picture, that's the picture when I came home from the doctor that January. And I took that because that day there I hit director with the company. I know we don't talk the business or anything, but that's why I took that picture also, because they wanted to put it on the directors board.
Oh, right.
But that's 40, that that's like 30 pounds different from here to here, but it's 40 pounds from when I actually started, because I
So
was,
now,
yeah. So I actually lost 57 pounds from the time that I started. Um, from the time that I started until now, I lost 57 pounds. But these two pictures, one of them I was 40 pounds down from when I started, and this one, the previous picture, the before picture, I was like 8 pounds down.
yeah.
So,
So
and,
this
and that,
picture was your after picture was over a year ago, or are you talking about this past January?
yeah, no, it's January a year ago.
Yeah.
I lost another 17 pounds since that after picture that you have there.
Mhm.
Need a before, and then a before and a now. A before and
Yeah.
after and a now, maybe.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
if you see the pictures of me in the green shirt, there's a
yeah.
picture. I don't know if I shared it, but I'm in a green shirt. That picture was taken Christmas Day of 2023. And the reason that picture was taken is I bought my daughter a camera for Christmas, or well, we did, and she was playing around with it and got those pictures. So that's why I have that picture, but that was in 2023. And at that time I actually weighed more than I did in 24 when I started the protocol.
Okay. Okay.
So
Wow.
when I got sick with diabetes, I weighed
Mm.
255 pounds. When I started the protocol, I weighed 227, and now I'm down to 170. And
Yeah,
those are
that's incredible.
numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
incredible.
think I would ever see that number, but my wife saved a lot of my old clothes because they weren't wore out, but I was grew out of them, and I'm back into the same clothes that I wore when we got married.
Oh,
So,
that's incredible. Wow.
yeah.
So your before picture isn't even a representation of what your heaviest.
Yeah, that's not
Right.
even my heaviest.
Wow.
So,
So in 4 months, your A1C went from 8.2 to 5.9, and then even after that point, it went down even further. Was your doctor kind of blown away?
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, she was like, she couldn't believe it. She she doesn't do the protocol or anything, of course, but her brother-in-law does, is it, and he also lost like 70 pounds. And yeah, and he said how it saved his life, in which I truly believe it did.
Yeah.
And but yeah, she was like, keep doing this is working. She's like, don't stop doing it. Just keep on doing this. And then when she sent me the results through mail, she wrote on the bottom that she's like, you're doing great, just keep doing it and don't quit because it's working. So and i
Yeah.
keep i keep that letter and show that to people, because you can make
I
your
would.
doctor happy.
Right. I would too. I would too. I'd frame it.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to make one other comment because I hear this a lot, and I think I probably started hearing it from Dr. Mindy Pels when she talks about fasting like a girl. And I've really heard over the past 3 years, we do a lot of science calls. We have a lot of medical professionals that really talk about metabolic health. But, when we talk about women who have PCOS, that's a hormone imbalance, and we'll say, sometimes you'll notice symptoms of facial hair, male pattern baldness. And so when you mentioned that about your hair starting to grow back, that I would assume, I'm not the medical professional here, but I would almost assume that was an imbalance in your hormones. Once you've gotten that regulated, that's something that's able to, kind of function the way it's supposed to again. Because we see that a lot in women when their hormones are imbalanced, their testosterone is too high and their estrogen is too low and things like that. So I don't know that I've heard you tell that story as part of your results either. So I'm really, really happy for you, Paul.
Thanks.
You have to do before and after without your cap on, before here and then after. That's incredible. Well, thank you so much, Paul. I'm so happy that you were able to make it onto the live tonight and share your story. That was very amazing and awesome. So thanks for sharing.
Yep, you're welcome.
So next we're going to go ahead and go to Dr. Travis Robbins. So Travis and I have known each other for many years. We actually grew up in the same hometown, and after college or after high school, Travis joined the Army. I believe the Army, and then spent many years in the Army. Didn't you retire from the Army?
I did.
Yeah, and then once he retired, so he's based in South Carolina, and he actually runs a vet clinic, and he is a physical therapist, and so he works with our veterans. So first of all, Travis, thank you for your service. I know what as a husband who is a veteran and a son who's currently serving, I know what a sacrifice your wife and children had made in order for you to be able to do that, and just the service, the act of actually going in and serving the country. So first of all, I just wanted to highlight that and say thank you so much because it's appreciated. And so anyway, so he's a physical therapist and he sees metabolic syndrome every day, just about. And when we actually first presented this to Travis, he was in the middle of actually doing some research and writing an ebook about this. So his knowledge was already there. He already had been doing some research. And so I think when he come on board with this, it was right up his alley. He was like, I'm going to hop on this board and let's go. So Travis is going to talk to us about our energy versus, food versus fat and how our body functions that way, and also ketones, the value of ketones. So Travis, would you just kind of also, I know I kind of touched on it a little bit, but just kind of like drew your attention, first of all, to the field of metabolic health. What caused you to maybe kind of go down that rabbit? What were you dealing with in your own health? Because we see, right, a lot of medical professionals say diet and exercise, and they're some of the heaviest people that we know, some of the unhealthiest people that we know. So what kind of brought you to that field? And then what were you dealing with yourself? And then if you would just kind of go into your science from that point, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. Paul,
Of course.
great job.
Always.
Keep up the great work. Your pictures are amazing and
Yeah.
your story is great.
Yeah.
As a physical therapist in the Army, I had a preconceived notion that all of our soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines were ultra fit. They ate kale and spinach. And what I realized is that the military is a microcosm of society. We just have some of those burdens where we're charged with exercising and trying to stay as fit as we can. And in my clinic, I was seeing inflammation, obesity, chronic overuse, bone injuries. And I started looking at inflammation. And it really wasn't until probably 15 years, almost 20 years into my career, that I realized that inflammation was still a symptom of the bigger problem, and that was our diet. And our diet was causing the inflammation. Excuse me, our diet was causing the inflammation. Our diet was in the Army, our soldiers will drink energy drinks quite often because they have long hours, they're staying active, they're deployed, they're training. And so they're drinking either high sugar, high energy drink, high caffeine. And the lifestyle is very fast paced. So diet sometimes takes a back burner. When you're busy, you eat what's convenient, like all of us do. And that combination of diet and exercise is preached, but sometimes it's very hard to actually live that kind of clean living lifestyle. And so I was seeing the inflammation, but I was also seeing all those problems that come with it. And it really wasn't until I started to learn about the protocol and the system that we're going to talk about today that I realized that insulin resistance, the hormone of insulin, is really one of the main drivers. It's probably not the only driver, but I tell people it is the easiest one thing you can do. If you can control your insulin, many of your body systems, like Paul talked about, come back into line. For example, blood pressure and that early weight loss. People are always amazed when they start this protocol that they lose weight relatively quickly. And a lot of times they're frustrated when I tell them that it's water weight because they think that they're just getting rid of the water and it's not really changing their body. But what they don't know is that when your insulin has been chronically high, your body will store fluid. And that is one of those forms of weight gain. And when your body stores fluid, one of the secondary effects is elevated blood pressure. And I've known many people who have started the protocol for blood pressure problems, one of the metabolic cursors of metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, and they start to drop their blood pressure and they lose weight quickly. And that is an important thing to stress is water weight early on is telling you that you're finally bringing your insulin levels down. And that's what really we're looking for. When you and I, Becky, were talking last week about coming on and doing this video, I said I was interested in talking about burning fat as fuel and ketones. But I really was trying to think long and hard, what is going to be the best thing to tell anybody who listens to this? And I thought, well, if I talk about burning body fat as an energy source, it lets me talk about all the different things. For example, Paul talked about he was diabetic and his A1C was, what was it, 8.2, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's high. 5.8 to 6.0 is that kind of the known tipping point from being pre-diabetic to diabetic. And then anything over 6, 7, 8, we've heard it as high as 16, which is unbelievable. But that A1C is a measure of your blood glucose, the amount of sugar that is literally circulating in your blood. And when your blood glucose remains high, your body has to produce more and more of that hormone insulin in order to try to bring that blood sugar down. And that is indeed one of the root causes of the problem is Americans, 9 out of 10 Americans. So the next time you go to school, to work, to church, look around and count the people in the room. And for every 10 people in that room, likely 9 people will have these same problems that we're talking about tonight: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, metabolic syndrome, high blood cholesterol. That is one of the major health problems in America today. 9 out of 10 people suffer with it. But if people were to track one hormone, insulin, they could very much more simply manage. It's countless the number of patients that come into my clinic when I was practicing full time, and they would ask me, well, how do I lose weight? And the old measure was eat less calories and exercise more. And they would come back frustrated. They would say, Travis, I'm exercising more and I'm eating less. Why am I not losing weight? And it was really their diet was keeping their blood insulin and their blood glucose high. And when your insulin is high, you cannot lose weight. Insulin is the trigger for your body storing fat. And when your blood insulin is high, you physically, metabolically cannot lose weight. So that's really the key hallmark. Now, I think what we'll talk about as the video goes on is how do we get the insulin down? There are a lot of easy, sustainable, scientific ways that we can bring that insulin level down. The first one, and I've been doing it for years, has been intermittent fasting. I think there's a myth that when people hear fasting, they think of starvation. And that is not what intermittent fasting is. Intermittent fasting is simply just restricting your eating to a narrowed window of time in the day. I tell people start with 12 hours. So take 12 hours off of eating and then eat your normal 2,000 calories, 2,400 calories within that 12-hour period. But every week, try to increase that fasting time by an hour or two. It allows your body to get used to the system. Um, and a lot of people find that when they get into intermittent fasting and they extend it 14, 16, or 18 hours, they literally feel the switch, the metabolic switch that occurs from burning the blood sugar is energy to finally now burning body fat. And so for me, intermittent fasting was one of the most powerful things. The other thing I tell my patients and my family and friends is stop snacking. Most Americans will eat 500 to 1,000 extra calories a day in just snacking. And for a pound of body fat, roughly the calculation is 3,500 calories, 3,500 calories extra equals a pound of body fat. So the idea being is Americans will theoretically gain more than a pound a week in snacking of extra body fat that they just cannot burn because we have a sedentary lifestyle. So intermittent fasting, cut out snacking, and cut out foods that have refined carbohydrates. Anything that comes in a bag, a box, try to limit those as much as you can and try to cut out any added sugars. That's going to allow your blood insulin to come down, your blood glucose to come down, and it's going to give your body a chance to begin to burn the body fat. And I'll just ask Paul. Paul, you probably intermittent fast.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How many hours a day do you normally fast?
It's never the same. Sometimes I only go with one meal. I mean, I go all over the board on my fasting now. Like you said, when you first start out, 12 hours was hard for me for a guy that's always eating. But as I went, now I can do 30, 40 hours and I'll change it up. One day I might do a 16-hour fast, then the next 2 days, maybe do 24 hours and then back 16 and I'll keep doing that. And the reason I started doing that is because of what Jason Fung talked about in Florida. Just change, not always get into that same rhythm, keep changing it up. And so that's one reason why I do that. I keep, changing it up and have success doing it. So
Yeah, that's a great strategy. And a lot of people tell me, well, I get hangry when I get hungry. That is one of the sure signs. If you get that craving when you get hungry, that is a sign that your body is not efficiently switching from burning glucose to burning fat. And it's that hormonal system of managing the insulin and burning the body fat. Most people, when they get used to intermittent fasting and their body's able to change between burning glucose and burning fat, they find, like Paul said, that they can literally fast and eat whenever they want. There's not that high demand for satiation that we get when we are just simply burning carbohydrates for fuel. Um, and the last thing that I'll hit on is ketones. Your body produces ketones when it burns body fat for fuel. And in the old days, 20, 30 years ago, there was a misplaced avoidance of ketones. The medical establishment used to think ketones were an unhealthy byproduct. But the science is literally telling us that our brain, our heart, our liver, our main energy organs actually prefer ketones and work better than glucose. So we've been misguided into believing that we needed to eat 4 to 6 meals a day because we had to keep our blood glucose stable, when really that was some of the worst nutrition and metabolic advice that we could be giving somebody. We were never getting to the point where we could burn body fat as fuel. So ketones are very important. And I think we're going to cover a lot more great information. And I know Alan has a great story. I think it's going to clear up a lot of the questions that people have. And I hope the listeners dispel the myths that they have, those misconceptions that they have in their mind. Because once we get rid of some of those myths, your body, like Paul is noticing, will
Yeah.
start to heal itself. And the healing is almost automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Travis, I have a couple questions for you. Would you just kind of, so, Travis just mentioned with the fasting, your body starts to heal itself. Would you just kind of briefly explain what you mean by healing itself? So I know that when you get to a point in your fasting window that you can reach the phase of autophagy, your body is actually creating new stem cells. Is that what you're talking about?
Sure. Yeah, usually autophagy. Now, the research isn't clear on when autophagy truly begins. And depending on how metabolically flexible, how easily you go from burning blood glucose to body fat as energy sources, that probably determines when your body gets into autophagy and becomes truly ketogenic. But autophagy, the word autophagy, auto means self or automatically, and phagy means to eat. So the root of the word means you're actually feeding on yourself, which
Mm.
sounds kind of barbaric in a way. But what your body is doing is it's picking out the damaged tissue,
Mm.
the extra proteins that shouldn't be in your brain, for example, with some neurologic disorders, the lining of your stomach and intestines. It takes those old cells and it breaks them down and it recycles them in your body. So autophagy is one of the most powerful regenerative tools that your body can go through when you get used to that intermittent fasting cycle and have a longer, usually they say about 16 to 18 hours of
Yeah.
fasting. And once people get into that ketogenic, where your body is making ketones from burning body fat and starts to recycle and replace old and worn out body tissues, that is where some of the regenerative power from intermittent fasting and this protocol comes in.
Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up. I appreciate that. I had one other question for you. So I know that you were talking a lot about burning glucose for fuel that we get from our food. And if you're not burning food essentially for fuel, then you're burning stored fat. But I actually want to kind of talk about fat as the macronutrient, right? Because for a while we've heard fear the fat, cut out the fat, make sure you're getting low fat and fat free milk and cottage cheese and sour cream and all these other dairy products. Make sure it's low fat or fat free, skim milk and all these other things. Would you just kind of explain real quick to the viewers how the importance of fat? Not
Sure.
only is fat a macronutrient that's essential, right? There are essential fatty acids, but what damage are we really doing by eliminating fat? Also in the same sense as burning, because fat is a fuel source also.
It is. And it's
Yeah.
a very powerful fuel source. So you have three macronutrients: carbohydrates, which are your sugars and your starches, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates and proteins have roughly about 4 calories a gram nutritionally. Fats have 9 calories a gram. So right off the bat, you know that if you eat fat, you're going to have more of an energy source to fuel your activity. And that is exactly why nature creates the system where fat is an energy source, because it is so energy rich. You can imagine that if you were living in the wilds of Alaska and had to live off of the game that you caught, you would want to be eating fat and proteins to be able to fuel your body's systems. And the fat is what gives you that energy to do so. Uh, Carbohydrates, on the other hand, give you very quick energy, which spikes your blood glucose and your blood insulin. And that's what gets your hormones in that roller coaster.
Mm.
So, one of the things is when we take fat out of food, what do you think we replace it with? There really isn't a healthy alternative. So, we replace it
Yeah.
with sugar and refined carbohydrates, which is absolutely one of the defining characteristics of the unhealthy American diet. Is we've taken the fat out of food, thinking it was evil. The saturated fat myth, that saturated
Yeah.
fat and the cholesterol in your food raises your blood cholesterol, has effectively been debunked. That doesn't cause your blood cholesterol to go up. What in fact causes your blood cholesterol to go up is the metabolic syndrome and the dysfunction of your metabolic system that creates the hyperlipidemia, the elevated blood cholesterol. Most people could eat protein and fat as a main part of their diet and be very healthy for the rest of their lives. So I hope that answered your
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
because it's the myth that fat is bad.
Yeah.
Saturated fat, poly and monounsaturated fats can be eaten in a very healthy way and can be sustainable.
Mm. Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you. And I didn't think about it earlier, and I talk about it quite a bit in my videos when I do my lives and things like that. But you were talking just near the end of it and talking about ketones, right? I think I heard it may have been Dr. Bickman say your brain cells actually thrive on ketones, but very rarely are they ever fed ketones because it's just fed glucose all day long, right? Because of this roller coaster. And then we're so cute. We come up with these cute little nicknames, hangry. And then, we even make this cute little Snickers commercial with Betty White in the backyard. Here, have a Snickers. You're not yourself in your like, right? We don't focus on the fact that it's a problem. We just
Yeah,
brush it under the
exactly.
rug and make a joke out of it and move along. So I appreciate the fact that you were able to touch on that tonight and teach on that and, bring your expertise to the table. So Travis, as always, thank you. Such a pleasure to have you on the live and share your info.
Appreciate it.
If you guys have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and we will try to address those at the end. But we're going to go ahead and move to Alan. So Alan is someone that I've known for a handful of years, and here and there throughout the years, lost a little bit of contact and come back around. But Alan started on this system and he has had some incredible results. He and his wife both have had some really incredible results. So I'm going to ask Alan if you would just kind of share your story, and then Alan's also going to talk about the reason why we get on here and talk about these lives is first and foremost the education on insulin resistance and metabolic health. We all have had wonderful, wonderful results on a nutraceutical that we've all used that have helped get to us that point, right? Has helped, like Paul was saying, switching up your fasting. Some fasting windows are longer than others. We don't get the amount of fiber that we need to because it's all being stripped out of our foods from the food manufacturers. And so this nutraceutical, we've all had wonderful, great results with. So I asked Alan if he would please share his results, and then he's going to kind of go into how this system ties in with everything that Dr. Travis was teaching about a few minutes ago.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I was a mess before running into this protocol. I heard about this when I was 60 years old, which is almost 3 years ago now, I guess. And at that point, I was your typical guy that just thought meds will save the day, right? I mean, I can just get on meds and I can do whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. I became diabetic at 40, and they put me on a med. I was initially afraid of that, all that stuff, but hey, it seemed to work. And then anyway, fast forward, I'm at 60 years old now. I'm on 4 different diabetes meds, and my A1C is still too high with 4 different diabetes meds. I had to be months away from getting on insulin. I wasn't on that at least yet. I ballooned up to 360 pounds, And, over the last decade, I was able to get down to 320, but I could not get below 320 for over a decade. And I had high cholesterol med, acid reflux med, high blood pressure med. I mean, you name, if you look at that wheel for insulin resistance and everybody's mentioning different things, I was there. And I had fatty liver. I mean, I was on CPAP machines and, lungs are going the wrong way. And, when they do your pulmonary function test, I was continually getting worse. And it was just a picture of health, and so my doctor, I mean, he's after me. He's a diabetic doctor, endocrinologist, and he wanted me to have bariatric surgery, where they cut away 3/4 of your stomach and sew it back together. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I heard horror stories about that too. I mean, yeah, you won't eat, but you won't get nutrition and, a whole bunch of other stuff. Different topic. But I said, I am going to figure this out. And I mean, I tried everything like a lot of us today. We go from diet to diet to diet, praying that the next one is going to be the magic bullet, right? And I didn't realize, like Travis was said, when your insulin levels are high, it's telling your body to store fat, don't burn it. How can you diet and exercise in that state? And 80 to 90% of us are in that state. That's why we're struggling and going yo-yo dieting all over the place. But I just didn't understand that at that point. So my doctor kept after me, and I'm like, I'm going to figure this out, but I couldn't figure it out. And I got to the point where I figured, I am just going to die young, and there's not a dang thing I can do about it. And it's a bad spot, when you get to that point. I didn't want to be there. I mean, I have a great wife, 2 great kids, 7 grandkids. I want to be around, but the meds angle, I tried to do everything they told me. And of course, they always mention, hey, you got to move more and eat less and calories in, calories out. Well, yeah, that does. When you're not metabolically healthy, and most of us aren't, that isn't the answer. You need to fix your metabolic health first, then try. There's a lot of great diets out there. As long as it's lower carb, lower sugar, like Travis said, pick one. But you need to get your insulin levels down low first. Well, so I was right at that point. I prayed for a solution because I sure as heck didn't have it. And a friend of mine comes along and shares this natural health protocol. And to say I was skeptical would be an understatement. I mean, I'm like, why would this 101st thing work when the other 100 didn't work, right? But anyway, okay, we're just going to prove this one wrong. Also, my wife and I both jump on this, and we're going to do this by the book, and as we're told in natural health protocol. And unbelievable. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, I was able to get off all 4 diabetes beds. Reversed my diabetes. I'm no longer in diabetic range. I reversed my fatty liver. Your blood tests for, I think it's ALT and AST, all came back in line. I got off my cholesterol med. I got off my acid reflux med. And when I lowered my insulin levels, or reversed my insulin resistance, and got my gut health right, that's another piece we haven't talked about too much here. When I fixed those 2 things, I also lost 72 pounds, where I could not do that for over a decade. And fast forward, and that's not at 320 down to 247 or,
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think this is even a current, right? You too need a before and after and now.
Well, I've held that there. That's about
Okay.
it. At this point, I've had a few other, we all run into hurdles along the way, but,
Yep.
But you fast forward, I was talking about my pulmonary function tests and my lungs getting worse and worse. Well, I got into this. I don't know how long it was. Maybe it was a year even, because they do a pulmonary function test every year. And then she pointed out, she goes, your pulmonary function tests actually got better. And I'm like, cool. I figured, hey, inflammation. I know, Travis, you've talked about that. Inflammation everybody thinks of their joints and their knees. And yes, that's true. but inflammation in your lungs and your arteries, and I mean the whole 9 yards, right? So it was in the fall of this last year, I had another pulmonary function test, and she was just shaking her head. She goes, "This is not normal." She said, "Your lung function is completely normal now." And the reason I was going to these guys is because I do have light asthma. I said, "So you mean I don't have asthma anymore?" And she goes, "I'm not saying that." She goes, "I'm just saying that your lung function is completely normal." And she says, we should probably do a sleep, apnea test again, because I've been on a sleep apnea machine for 2 decades also. So they run me through that test and all that stuff with all the wires and all that. No more sleep apnea. So guys, we can impact a whole bunch of things. And I forgot to mention my wife. She lost weight also, but her key thing is she had kidney disease stage 3A. And for those watching that don't understand the scale of that, you have a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is kidney failure and dialysis. You don't want to be at 5, right? She's 3/5 of the way down that scale for the last 3 years consistently. We're pretty scared. What the heck is going on, And we didn't expect this, but on this health protocol, she just happened to have an appointment with her kidney specialist 7 weeks after starting this. So she goes in there, has all her different tests and stuff, and meets with the kidney specialist. And she says, "I don't know what you're doing, but you virtually no longer have kidney disease." She's had 4 or 5 tests since that over the last 3 years. No kidney disease. We can impact so many things by tackling the root cause instead of just treating the symptoms with meds. Meds only treat the symptoms. And I can talk now because I learned a lot of this stuff, but because I didn't know the answers before. But if you have high blood pressure, for instance, they'll give you a med. Typically will bring down your high blood pressure, but it has a lot of side effects that come with it. And it does not fix the root cause of insulin resistance. So I'm going to go over this part pretty quick, but I mean, the result, if you look at today's, Travis mentioned a bunch of this stuff, but they're adding sugar, food industry by 100 different names, and they're allowed to not just say sugar. They can use all these different names in your labels. So you can't even tell what the heck is what. They're stripping the fiber out of the protective fiber out of our food, like Becky mentioned, and we need that fiber. It helps us feel satiated so we don't overeat. It lowers our glucose and insulin spikes, feeds the healthy bacteria in our gut to be able to heal our gut, get away from autoimmune issues. There's a whole slew of different things. And then we have our government in their infinite wisdom sharing food pyramids that tell us to eat 6 to 11 carbs per day. So the result of all that stuff, I'm not going to go into detail on that, but the result is that only 7% of us today are metabolically healthy. That leaves 93% of us, or 80 to 90%, that are in worsening stages of insulin resistance. Only 5% of us are getting the appropriate amount of fiber. And it's not a huge surprise because they're stripping the fiber out of our food, And then the 5%, I mean, that's from the Cleveland Clinic, #1 heart hospital in the world. So we need to lower our insulin levels, become more insulin sensitive, reverse insulin resistance. We need to put fiber back in our diet to get our gut health right, feed the healthy bacteria to offset these inflammatory ones to heal your gut. And healing your gut actually helps with insulin resistance and reversing that too. So it's very, very helpful. So how do we do that? How does this health protocol do this? So one very, very effective way at reversing insulin resistance is to skip breakfast. If you look at look at after supper the previous night. So after supper, don't put anything in your body that would break up your fast until noon the next day. And again, you can work up to that, like Scott, Travis mentioned, from 12 hours working up to the 16 or 18. Yes, you can drink black coffee. Yes, you can drink water. We just don't want to break your fast. But what that does, guys, is it gives you 16 to 18 hours to finally lower your insulin levels every single day. Typically, you can reverse insulin resistance in a couple weeks or a few weeks. It depends on how insulin resistant you are. There's a lot of factors, and then you can start making progress on all the slew of health issues that we mentioned. The problem, super hard to do that. When I heard the word fast, when I first heard, I'm like, I don't do that. I mean, I never fasted a day in my life. I look at it as more time-based eating, getting these windows like Travis mentioned. So you can try to iron will through this, and through the hunger. And in 2 weeks, typically, people are going to fall off. It's just not sustainable long term. Unless you happen to be a unicorn type person, I wasn't one of them. So that's where the first tool that is part of this health protocol comes in. This is highly concentrated yerba mate extract. Yerba mate is just a plant in South America, but it has amazing properties to it. It helps curb your appetite, and so you can make it easy to skip breakfast. Accelerates fat burning and ketone production. And again, our brains love ketones, like we were both all talking. And clears brain fog. Awesome, awesome tool. For those of you that are familiar with GLP-1 that they put on every single, every other commercial on TV, those are the synthetic, non-natural, lots of side effects, a bunch of other issues. We won't go into that today. But this naturally raises your own body's GLP-1, not putting some synthetic thing to mimic it, but it naturally raises your GLP-1 60 to 70%. So a lot of us, we just take it and we mix it with water, and we sip on it through the morning. We don't want to chug it. We just want to sip on it. So that curbs your appetite, makes it easy to skip breakfast. We don't need a mid-morning snack. We're going to basically eat lunch and supper. Such an amazing tool. We take it right after lunch too, or before or after lunch, and we sip on this through the afternoon. Curbs our appetite. We don't need a snack in the afternoon either. So we're focusing on, where we put our calories, like Travis was mentioning. So, we're trying to lower our insulin levels. So yeah, you try to minimize sugar, type drinks and sweets, orange juice, apple juice, energy drinks, pops, cakes, pies, or donuts, candy bars. I think we all know that stuff, spikes our glucose. And carbs turn into sugar. So we got to, just minimize carbs too. But other than that, we have a lot more food freedom, with this. So now let's talk about how do we fix our gut? How do we get our gut health right, heal our gut, and get away from a lot of these other health issues? Kidney disease, like my wife had, stage 3A, and as far as one of them. I didn't talk about it too much here, but in your gut, there's all kinds of healthy bacteria, and you can back all this up, Travis, but each type of healthy bacteria seems to like a different type of fiber or prebiotic. Fiber's a prebiotic to feed it. It'd be nice if you could just load up on one type of fiber and you're all done. It doesn't work that way. You need a variety of fiber to feed multiple types of healthy bacteria to offset the inflammatory ones and get your gut health right. So you can go to the grocery store and you can load up on all the different colors and kinds of vegetables, especially nuts and seeds and herbs, and try to favor a lot of the insoluble stuff. But we need, soluble type fibers too, but a lot of insoluble types. Bring all that stuff home and prepare that plethora at the beginning of your meal. We want it at the beginning because the food order does make a difference too. We want fiber at the beginning, then prioritize protein and fat, and then try to have your carbs last, because the later it is in the meal, it softens your glucose and insulin spike. So you can do that. You can go to the grocery store, and then the second, third, and fourth week, go buy all that stuff again. You're probably spending over $100 in trying to eat right, get all your fiber, and then to prepare it all for the, today's busy world. I mean, it's tough, So that's where the second tool comes in here. This is a diverse fiber, multiple fibers, handpicked by scientists to fix your gut. I don't know about you, but I can't go randomly just pick a bunch of fibers that would probably, these are picked by scientists. This does the four things that we talked about. Helps me feel satiated, so I didn't overeat. Helps me feel fuller, so I don't have to eat 2 hours later. Lowers my glucose and insulin spikes by up to 40%. That's a big deal when you're eating some carbs to knock it down by 40%. Big deal. Lowers your triglycerides. Many of us have high triglycerides, leading indicator of a whole bunch of other issues to come. It's a sticky fat in your blood. In my case, in 2.5 months, that's when I had my first follow-up. My triglycerides dropped from 166 down to 98, dropped like a rock, and I hear that a lot. I mean, that's not just me. And then the last thing is it feeds the healthy bacteria in your gut to start healing your gut, which again, reverses insulin resistance. They're kind of tied. And this one, we don't mix this and sip on it. I mean, for any of you guys that know what, insoluble fiber is, you mix it with water, turns to a gel in 15 minutes. We don't want to drink it that way. We drink it immediately after we mix this. We want that happening inside. It coats things, slows down the digestive process, lowers your glucose and insulin spike. So that's kind of how the tools work and why they work to lower insulin resistance and get our gut health right. What am I missing, guys?
I thought that was pretty great, Ellen. Thank you so much for being able to explain that the way you did. Thank you so much. I made a couple of notes as you guys were all talking. I'm over here making notes so I don't forget something. And I wanted to mention a couple of things. You mentioned triglycerides, Alan, and Travis, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong here or expand on the information. I believe it was Dr. Bickman was talking about triglycerides being the sticky fat in your blood, right? Your bloodstream. When you can skip a meal or skip snacks and you're only eating a couple times a day, especially if at those meals you're really prioritizing protein and fat, the triglyceride numbers naturally come down quite quickly, as does, and I think Bickman also said that fatty liver disease, the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, is probably one of the easiest and quickest to reverse just by fasting, because it's utilizing that stored fat in those liver cells and that fat in your bloodstream as a fuel source. So if triglycerides are one of the most dangerous things in your body, but it's also very easy to eliminate by fasting, why aren't we talking more about fasting, how beneficial it is, right? It was like one of the kind of first things that came to my mind too. But the other things, when Alan, you were kind of talking about preparing at home and all the vegetables and stuff, my mind went to seed oils for a second. Seed oils are actually, it actually leads to insulin resistance far worse than carbohydrates and sugar. And we really touched on a lot of carbs and sugar tonight, but seed oils are inflammatory and they lead to insulin resistance worse than carbs and sugar do. But one of the things that I had to really start paying attention to after my health scare was nutrition labels. I would buy the mayonnaise, right, that was marketed as made with olive oil. But if you turn the nutrition label around and you're looking at the ingredients list, olive oil's on there, but it's like 15 deep, right? Soybean oil was like the first or second ingredient. And usually it was like a soybean oil or a vegetable oil or a canola oil. So mayonnaise is one of them. And there's so many things that have these inflammatory seed oils in it. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind when you're doing this shopping for yourself to eat these whole foods at home. Just be mindful of the seed oils because they're very, very highly inflammatory. And that's one of the things that we're trying to eliminate too, is the inflammation. Travis, I don't know if you wanted to add anything on that or not, but.
I know you covered it well, but that's exactly right. Triglycerides are much more easy to manage and have a profound effect on your health when you can lower them naturally, especially without the use of statins. And being a healthcare provider, I'm not anti-medicine, but I believe we need to use medicines the way they were designed, not as a crutch that promotes us living an unhealthy lifestyle, believing that the medication is going to save us. That's an improper use of the medication, where to lower your triglycerides and your cholesterol and your blood insulin naturally, the side effect is all the things that we talked about. The side effects of decreasing your blood glucose and decreasing your triglycerides and your blood insulin levels is more energy, less weight, lower blood pressure, less of those unnatural, unhealthy cravings. A lot of people, when they begin to fast and their metabolism corrects itself, one of the things they notice is their cravings that they used to have, whether it's chocolate or carbohydrates like sweet rolls or Twinkies or whatever those are, soda, it goes away because your body
Yeah.
doesn't want to repollute itself anymore.
Yeah.
So it is very profound and very amazing how our body will naturally heal itself if we get out of our own way and just give it the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So Paul, I wanted to come back to you in closing. Travis brought some excellent points during his science presentation, and Alan was able to really to talk about these products and how it, heals our gut and how it helps to helps us to become insulin sensitive. Really is what you're doing when you're reversing the insulin resistance. You're just doing the opposite, which is sensitive to insulin. That's what we all need to be. So, if there's viewers that are watching, and if you're watching right now because somebody, tagged you, or you got a notification that somebody mentioned you in a comment, and that's why you're here, please get back with that person that tagged you. If you're watching this as a replay, again, get back with the person, whose Facebook you saw this live on. But Paul, if somebody is watching right now, whether live or a replay, and they're wondering, but what is it? How do I get it? Where's the best place for me to buy it? Would you just kind of talk through the daily cost or the monthly cost, however you want to do it? And then what's the best way to go about getting their hands on some?
Yeah, so the best way of getting it is go directly to somebody that has a discount link from the company. It's going to run about 150. It's going to run 159 a month, and plus your state taxes if you have any on that, and that comes out to $5.30 a day. That is really cheap. I bought a 16-ounce plain black coffee on the way home from work. I don't often buy coffee, but I decided to tonight. And I paid $3.28 for a plain black coffee. So this is a very affordable program because you're getting like 3 drinks for $5.30 a day. And another thing I want to really warn people, and this happened to one of my customers, do not buy it on any other platform such as Amazon, eBay, or Walmart. She got counterfeit product, and it's marketed real cheap, and it sucks people into buying it, and it's not the same product. So we are sending it back to the company. They want to do lab work, or like in their laboratory, see what's actually in it. So go directly to someone who has a company link and the person that tagged you. And that's another thing my doctor was amazed at when I told her. She asked me, so what's this cost a month? When I told her 159, she's like, wow, that's very doable. I was like, yeah, I just got done buying $400 worth of prescription pills. That's a 3-month supply for me, and that's already $100 a month eliminated that I can put against a product that works well.
Can I make a point here too?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I was talking about how for the first couple tools, when we're not eating, we're using these tools to curb our appetite. So we skip breakfast, save that cost. We skip, all the different snacks throughout the day because, it curbs our appetite. We don't eat them, and saving that cost. And then we're putting fiber back in our diet, and you really do eat less. We save twice the cost of the product. But we call it cost neutral, but in our case, we save twice the cost,
Yeah. I wanted to add to, because Paul really mentioned brought up a great point you can order this at these other websites that he mentioned. However, first of all, you have no idea where it's coming from. Like Paul mentioned, his customer ended up getting a counterfeit. Second of all, these are third party. Now, we do have an official storefront in Amazon. So if that's the case, look for the official, I think it's a blue with the white check mark, but you're still going to pay full retail price through there. So these third party sellers now have all of your personal information, right? When you order through a distributor, like any of us here on this call, or maybe somebody personally, you are still ordering, and I just want to clarify this, you are still ordering through your manufacturer. You're not giving any of us any of your personal information. We're not writing it down and placing the order for you. You're still ordering it through the manufacturer. We're just giving you a code to lock in the best discounted price, and it comes with a 90-day money back guarantee. Those other
Yeah.
websites that Paul mentioned, there is no 90 because it's not through the manufacturer, it's through a third party. So just be careful when you're placing your order. Go through somebody who's a distributor. You can get the best price. You know it's an effective product that's not outdated or counterfeit. Plus you get the 90-day money back guarantee. And we've got lots of great resources, you guys. There's a Facebook group. We have a fasting app that makes keeping track of your food and your fasting hours extremely easy. And so, yeah. Paul, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I don't think I have anything else.
I know Alan
Yeah.
does. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, if you went to another place that had weight type programs, I don't want to say the name that comes to mind,
Yeah.
but every think of a weight program. Have they ever has it ever been a net cost of zero when you got it? And did they give you a 90-day money back guarantee?
Right.
Not a chance. There's no risk. Give this a shot. I think you'll be amazed. If you use this appropriately, it will work, period. The 90-day money back guarantee that Becky mentioned took me decades to mess up my body. I can't expect to just fix it all in a week or a month.
Yeah.
Give it a 3-month adult time frame. You will be amazed, or you can get your money back.
There's no money back guarantee on the medications that you're going to get either. I don't know how many
No.
different diabetics I've heard say, oh, I'll eat that. I'll just take more insulin. I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're doing to your body.
Mhm.
Not only that, but after my health scare, I remember standing in my doctor's office and him telling me, you've had hysterectomy. I typically will prescribe, HRTs, which is hormone replacement therapy. I can't prescribe that to you. You can't have estrogen. So instead, we'll try this med for a while. If that doesn't work, we'll try that one. I was just like, geez, let me just go home and do
Guinea
some
pig,
research
yeah.
first, right? It was just, anyway, which I understand. That's their standard practice, right? That's the American way. That's you get diagnosed with something, you get treated for it. So, Travis, was there anything that you wanted to say in closing?
Yeah, my last statement will be, if you've ever tried to lose weight and struggled at any point, or if you know somebody who ever has, which we probably would run out of fingers and toes before we
Yeah.
ran out of people that fit that category.
Yeah.
You owe yourself the opportunity to feel healthy again. Like Alan said, give yourself 90 days and feel that inner strength and that health and vitality that comes back when your body is metabolizing and running on the fuels it was designed to run on. It is amazing. It is life-changing. The best decision I ever happened across, and the skepticism is gone, but you have to give it a chance. If you ever struggled, give this a chance and enjoy being healthy again. Having
There's
the
a reason-
opportunity to be healthy again.
Yes. There's a reason the system is called Feel Great. And if you're tired of not feeling great, reach out to us. Gentlemen,
Amen.
thank you so much. I teased at the beginning before we went on live. I felt a little bit out of place, but I don't think that I could have had a greater panel tonight. So gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and sharing your stories with us and your knowledge. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll catch you guys next time.